Good evening, Vancouver, and welcome back to Canucks After Dark Monday, November 28th, coming off of a heady 3-game road trip, all wins against some tough opponents, and as always, joined here by my co-host, Canuck Clay. How are you doing today, Clay?
Parker, I am great. I am thrilled that you and I undershot this team. We were being all optimistic, saying they're going to go 2-1 last week, and they swept. But I know we'll get to that. But overall, I'm doing well. Getting ready for the snow. I live in Richmond, but I'm a good Richmond driver as opposed to like a lot of my neighbors. Enough said. Are you worried at all about this pending snowfall?
Do we have snow coming? Is that a thing? I don't.
Where you been, man?
Oh
what
my
have you been
goodness!
doing?
Wow, we got like 4 days of snow over the weekend.
Okay, like I know you were skiing on Sunday in Whistler, but you had to know that there's at least snow. Can't you feel it in the air? It's kind of.
I know it's cold. I just didn't know there would be any precipitation. I have not been paying enough attention.
Well, that's because you don't have to drive to work every day. That's why.
That is true. I only have to drive to work occasionally, but yeah. Oh boy, 10 to 15 centimeters. Is that tonight? Tomorrow?
Yeah, basically by the end of tomorrow. I don't know when it's going to start tomorrow, but
boy, maybe I shouldn't go to work tomorrow. All right. Well, we've got I don't have snow tires. We've got 3 Canucks wins though to talk about, and a good bit of Canucks news, because last time we talked, and you sort of alluded to this, where the Canucks were 6-10-3. Going on a 3-game road trip against 2 monsters, right? The Colorado Avalanche, defending Stanley Cup champions, Vegas Golden Knights, who are tops of the Pacific Division. And we said, hey, let's be optimistic and hope for the best and say, hey, they're going to pull out a miraculous 2-1. Yeah. Well, they went and they beat Colorado. They beat Vegas, and they took San Jose to OT and got it done there as well. And they are just 1 game back of that 500 mark.
Yes.
I mean, who did you see this coming?
No, and 2-1, and we knew. I think in our heads we said, San Jose, you gotta win that game. You have to beat teams that are right around you in the standings, or certainly below you, which the Sharks are. But then we said, okay, maybe Martin is feeling it after. No, this was before. This was after Demko played against. So we basically said Martin's going to start 2 of the 3, and he'll probably win maybe his 2. Who knows what we said? But yeah, and I'm thrilled. And not only are they 1 game under the NHL 500, which basically doesn't count extra time losses, but the other thing is 1 point out of a playoff spot. Like to me, that's even more. Both of them are absurd to me when they started 0-5-2. Like which one's more absurd to you? The fact that they're 1 game under 500, they basically gone 0-5-2, so they've gone what 9-5-1.
I think is the number.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's and the thing is, you look at where things have improved, and they're still allowing a bunch of goals. Yeah. Their power play is on an absolute heater, and their penalty kill is slightly better at like 70% over that 9-5-1 stretch. So slight improvements across the board. See what happens when you take Riley Stillman out of the lineup. That's definitely the only difference that.
or is it Sheldon Dries? I've seen some crazy stats about him too.
It could be, yeah. They're like 8-1-2 with him in the lineup, something like that. Definitely all Sheldon Dries and Kyle Burrows being the big difference makers.
By the way, I'm probably gonna put my foot in my mouth here, but I noticed. By the way, thanks everyone for being here. Like the video. There's only 7 likes, but there's almost 50 of you in here. Like the video, and by the way, like I'm gonna do right now. If you're on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, whatever you cool kids are doing now, tweet out the link to this. I know it bumps our number a little bit, and we love seeing the interaction. What I was saying, Parker, is on Monday nights, I know we can't always, between you and me, can't always do them, but I think people are used to us on Mondays, so we always at least start with a bigger crowd. I think when we do Tuesday, Wednesday, it takes a few minutes for people to wind their way in and find us.
For sure, yeah, and I'm looking at the calendar, and I'm looking at next Monday being a 7:30 Canucks game, and I'm thinking, oh boy, we might be. We'll see what happens there. I don't know what is with these late starts, because also Monday, December 19th is also a 7:30 start. So they are doing some wacky stuff in the NHL scheduling department, but.
Very
Do
wacky.
you want to go back, take a little trip into the time machine, and go through these last 3 games? Because I think we did the show. Did we do it last Monday or last Tuesday?
No, last week was the Wednesday one.
So
no, Tuesday.
No, it was Tuesday, because the Avs game was Wednesday.
Yeah.
So we were, the Canucks were 6-10-3. They had just come off of that bad loss to Vegas after beating Buffalo, beating LA. So they had won 2 of the last 3, but that loss to Vegas kind of took the wind out of the sails because it was another multi-goal lead blown.
Yes.
And then we go to Colorado, the defending Stanley Cup champions, who had a pretty rough start to the season. And then coming into this game, though, they were 11-5-1. So you can tell, they had been off to a bad start and they were on an absolute hot streak coming into this one. And the Canucks tried to, put the brakes on early for the Avs, and it was Mikheyev scoring 21 seconds into this game.
Yeah.
And they got a hot start, and then the Avs did score twice. So first period was 2-1.
And Parker, do you remember the very first game of the year? I remember it was also on a Wednesday night because I was at church when we played the Oilers, and didn't we pump 2 or 3 goals in the first period?
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we felt all good, and I thought we were going to go 82-0 anyways. But this was a really nice start. And I was joking with you before we pressed record that I can barely remember the goals from last night. I don't know how I'm going to remember, but I do remember the Mikheyev one because Petey made a nice pass to him from behind the net.
Yeah. So they do blow that lead, a 1-goal lead that gets blown. And then we have Bo Horvat getting his 16th of the season in the second period. This is the 20th game of the year, by the way. Yeah. Then Cale Makar scored. So the Canucks go into the third period down a goal, which feels like they're doomed, right?
Yes.
They'd been outshot to that point by 6. They get outshot in the third period as well, but they get goals from Sheldon Dries. They get a goal from Ethan Bear. And it is Spencer Martin earning another 2 points.
Yeah.
And this gets the Canucks up to 7-10-3. And at this point, I mean, I'm looking at this road trip kind of already as our standards. The Canucks are out of it, whatever. Good start. At least they got a win. It hurts our draft position at this point, but they took down the best team in hockey.
And that third period was so strange, Parker, because you had Sheldon. So if someone told you before the game that the 3 guys that were going to have multiple point nights will be Sheldon Dries, Oliver Ekman-Larsson, and Ethan Bear, I'm not sure we would have believed them. But Dries had a really good game. You remember on his goal, he stick lifted Devon Taves, I think. Taves and Nashi Makar struggled. They were fine on offense, but defensively, I believe they were on the ice for 3 of the 4 Canucks goals, which is great. It was great to put them on the defensive a little bit. And then Ethan Bear with that long shot from the point, also set up by Dries and Ekman-Larsson. So Ekman-Larsson with 2 primary assists in the third period. It's nice to get some secondary scoring for sure.
Yeah, if you can go out there and play 10 minutes, get a goal and an assist, be the highest plus minus on the forward group other than Ilya Mikheyev. 3 shots in that time. Like that's a great night for Sheldon Dries. This was sort of Ethan Bear's, best game as a Canuck, getting 20 minutes of ice time. Again, coming from being a healthy scratch in Carolina after being a top 4 defenseman in Edmonton. So, I mean, this trade at this point, immediately looking great for a 5th round pick.
Yeah, and Bear's not without his faults. I know even before we acquired him, Parker, you and I talked about that. Yeah, he can skate, he can move the puck a little bit, but he is prone to turnovers. He's not the best defender. We've kind of seen that too. He kind of gets walked a little bit, leading to odd man rushes. But and we'll get to that maybe in the San Jose game. But for this game, he was great. And Dries, what a revelation! Like you think you don't really need a center, but with Lazar playing the wing, with Stanika out, and with Miller obviously better on the wing, I guess you need him if you want to run 4 deep.
Yeah, and again, the JT Miller switch to wing, this is a night where he puts up another point, right? Doesn't feel like he's doing too much, but a second assist, he just keeps racking up points. I mean, you look at it today, he's over a point a game again, 23 points in 22 games, albeit at a -7.
He was a -11 last week when we talked, though, so he's getting better.
That is true. That is a big upgrade. I think Besser's probably on a similar upgrade. He's -12.
How did that happen? I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. He was a +1 against the Avs, though, and that's what counts at this point. Anything else you want to touch on this game, or do you want to move on?
No, and the fact that Colorado, they're so good. Did you know that weird stat where they're Colorado's third or second worst in the league 5-on-5, but they have one of the best power plays, so that's why they're so good. And they went 2 for 6, but it wasn't like we were freaking out because our penalty kill was so bad. That's a really good team.
Yeah, and that was an average night for the Canucks penalty kill. Problem is the power play went 0 for 5, which makes it a little tougher. So then we go forward, and this is only they got another 2-day break, and this is where your master plan came into effect, where you said, well, it's a 2-day rest. You should put it's a back-to-back, so you're going to play Martin in one, Demko in the other. Get Martin in the game against Vegas because Demko just sort of got shelled by Vegas a couple days prior. And just give him a different look. And Vegas almost gets shut out. They don't score until there's about 4 minutes left.
Yeah.
In this one.
And even before we get into the game itself, yeah, not rocket science. You and I, we weren't the only ones predicting that Martin should start this game, but it was interesting to hear Boudreau say that Martin deserved it. But Boudreau was smart. He also said in the same breath, and Demko played really well last year against San Jose. So that was a really smart move, almost justifying basically what we were speculating anyways. No, Martin's playing better, and he had a 2 day gap, so why not go against him, give the Vegas Golden Knights a different look. And this was probably the Canucks' most complete game. I know not a lot to choose from, but this was solid, man. This was so good.
Yeah, it really felt like a dominant performance, right? There was people who, I was asked in my post game of this one, like, what was a more complete game, this one or the LA game, right? And I had said from the start, I didn't think that LA game was that great. They kind of got shelled, and they had great goaltending. And this game, they were the better team, right? They outshot them 36-27. Analytically, at 5-on-5, not a big difference, but the Canucks power play was unstoppable. And you got to think, especially in the third period, score effects really come into play, right? It's a 5-0 game. Who cares if you get shelled in the third period? But you get Brock Besser getting on the board with another nice tip goal, which he has been pretty good with. You have JT Miller getting his 11th, just a regular JT Miller downhill on the power play. I don't know how that shot works all the time. But then they always show you the angle, like from Miller's perspective. You're like, why would he even shoot that? There's no lane to the net, and it goes in. So Canucks up 2-0 after the first, and no one thinks they're going to win.
Yep.
So we go to the second period. We get an Andrei Kuzmenko goal that was Elias Pettersson's goal.
That's right.
But they changed it yesterday.
Yeah.
I still haven't seen it since then, so I didn't notice.
I did watch it again. Parker, picture this. Picture if I'm the goalie, Kuzmenko kind of crosses this way. Yeah, and he has a stick, so it happens so fast. But what's so funny, even so, I know if I was Kuzmenko, and maybe it's because I don't score ever, like 1 goal a year. If I knew that I tipped it, wouldn't you at least say something or react? But maybe he was deferring to Petey, and he let Petey do the flyby first.
Yeah, you would just go to the front of the line.
Exactly.
Right? I'm just watching this replay. I don't know how they figured out that he tipped it, because it's so fast that you can't see the direction change. So I think it was probably going in regardless. But yeah, it's Kuzmenko ends up getting it, and then turns out that's a multi-goal night for him, because under 2 minutes later he scored. And this one was all the fourth line, right? It was Oman and Joshua. Right. And then Kuzmenko was still out there with them. And Oman and Joshua both win nice battles down low. I mean, Niels Oman has been really good. And Joshua's been solid as well. And Kuzmenko just ends up finding the back of the net on that one. And he's got 10 on the year at this point.
Wow. Yeah. And of course, we'll talk about him yesterday as well. So that... and I'm glad you mentioned Niels Oman and Dakota Joshua. Joshua, he brings some size, some toughness that we have kind of lacked a little bit, actually. And then Niels Oman, wow, he was basically unsigned by Colorado, correct? After they drafted him,
I guess so, yeah, because he was just in the Swedish league.
We just grabbed him, yeah. Okay, yeah. Oh, he's been great. Yeah, fourth line. So there, the Lazar, Oman, Joshua line is actually making us forget about the Highmore, Lamico, John Pond, as you affectionately called him, and Mott line. Like, this line has been really good. Really good.
Yeah. And that's what you wanted of a fourth line, right? Yeah. Exactly this, right? They can go in, have a good forecheck, make a play, keep the puck out of their own zone while the rest of your team gets rest. And every once in a while, they'll contribute on the score sheet as well, right? Yes. I mean, you've got Niels Oman has 5 points in 22 games. That's not great, but he's also his plus minus is 0.
Oh, for a fourth liner, that's good.
That's solid, right? Yeah. Dakota Joshua also has 5 points in 21 games. He's a +1, has 30 penalty minutes on top of it as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, you take that 100%. You're not. This is a fourth line that's coming out even at 5-on-5, and that's all you can ask for.
What does Lazar have, by the way? If you still have it up,
Lazar has fewer 2 points in 12 games, but he's also a +1.
Okay. Yeah, I've liked him. And then, I must admit, I can't remember Horvat's goal to make it 5-0. Oh, no, I do remember, because there was 1 second left. It was that beautiful pass. But, did this come up in your post-game, Parker? Because it came up in mine, but I actually didn't address it because I didn't have time. Someone pointed out to me that Horvat did not acknowledge Miller, who made the amazing, deke with 2 seconds left. And then as Horvat was celebrating, he didn't even look to the goal mouth to acknowledge Miller's pass. Did you A, notice that, and B, did anyone else bring it up to you?
I mean, I'm looking at it right now. He 100% does.
Oh,
He literally skates over. He looks at the blue line and then just like looks at JT and is like does one of those. Like,
oh,
how
then what
did
was
you
I
do that?
thinking?
I don't
Okay.
know. Maybe he was looking at Hughes there, but it looked fine.
Okay.
A great play. Like Hoglander, good play at the line.
Yes.
JT Miller, beautiful play in front to get it over to Horvat. I love the score. The Sportsnet clock says 0.1, even though it was actually like a second and a half. But yeah, that was just the icing on the cake.
Yeah.
This one was funny because I was at hockey at the same time as this game. I had a hockey game at 7:00.
Right. Right.
So I got off the ice at about 8:20.
Yep.
And it was 2-0. And I checked my phone, it's 2-0.
Yeah.
By the time I was out of the dressing room, it was 4-0. And then when I was in the car on the way home listening on the radio, it was 5-0. So everything happened in that really short, it was 9 minutes of hockey that the Canucks basically sealed this game away. You're not blowing a 5-goal lead. Marchessault gets the one with about 3.5 minutes left.
Yeah.
Marchessault is always so good against the Canucks, which is annoying because I don't like that guy. And
did you see the highlights then
5-1.
of him and Garland fighting?
I did watch that fight. Yeah, not much happened. I do like that it's an even matchup though, right? You got two guys who are like 5'8", 5'9",
yeah,
going at it. It was a good one.
And of course, it's too bad because I wasn't worried we were going to lose, but you would love to see Spencer Martin get a shutout for sure.
Yeah, but maybe this is motivation. He'll stay hot. He'll keep working towards it, hopefully, and it would be good to see him get one.
Yeah. So now after this game, I did Game Over. You did your own show. We're all laughing because we're gold. We already hit our 2-win quota, and it's gravy after that.
Yeah, they've won the week at this point. They've won the road trip at this point, and we're looking at San Jose, and it is the perfect trap game. It's the second game on a back-to-back. It's in San Jose, where the Canucks have, they've had their fair share of struggles there before.
Yeah.
And you think they're gonna find, Demko's been struggling. They're gonna find a way to lose this, and the hockey gods tried. They tried. That Luke Cunnin goal where it bounces off of a stick, off of the shoulder of Cunnin and over Demko and in. The other goal, I don't remember what happened, but I know it was a fluke.
I heard someone say that Demko should be standing up straighter. Like,
no, he didn't know where it was. The default thing, if the goalie loses the puck, they if they're in the butterfly, they stay in the butterfly.
Yeah.
They push themselves back, so their pads are kind of flat on the goal line.
Right.
Just in case, and he doesn't know where it is. It's in the air. It shouldn't have been there. That's not where the puck's supposed to go.
Yeah.
But this one opens up with a Kyle Burrows goal in the first period. So he's got 2 on the year, which is great. Horvat and Miller getting points on that one. Cunnin gets his fluke in the second period. So we're going to the third period, tie game. Couture gives San Jose the lead on the power play. I think this was the other fluky one.
Went off Bear. Bear deflected it.
Right. Went off.
Good shot. Clean win. And that's the one thing. I thank goodness our penalty kill's been a lot better. But this was another 5 seconds in, man. That's crazy.
Yeah. They just get beat off the draw and don't have time to set up. And
so
the Canucks are down a goal and they immediately get it back. It's Ilya Mikheyev. I don't even remember this one.
I do. PD takes a shot. The rebound goes to Mikheyev. He backhands it, misses the net. Then PD retrieves the puck, and he tries to center it twice. The first time PD tries to center it, it hits the net, goes back to him, and then it goes off Kuzmenko's foot to Mikheyev, and that's why Kuzmenko gets the first assist. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So Mikheyev gets his 6th of the year to make it 2-2, and Mikheyev continues to be awesome because 2.5 minutes later, he makes that great play where he's sort of coming out of the corner. It rolls off of his stick. And then he dives for it, pokes it back to the point to Oliver Ekman-Larsson. His shot perfectly tipped by Elias Pettersson. Like just a gross tip to make that play, sort of 3-run legs. Absolutely perfection. Canucks get the lead 3-2, and then they blow that lead because Luke Cunnin scores. And this one just felt like it was coming, right? The Canucks defense got really sloppy. They let
Pinned for 2 minutes.
Stay in it. Yeah, just get stuck in their own zone. Cunnin eventually scores. It's Erik Karlsson's 21st assist of the year on that goal.
Pretty sweet pass. Yeah, you just see how good he is.
Yeah, he's got 32 points this year. which doesn't make any sense. And then so we go to overtime, and the Canucks have been garbage in overtime this year.
Yeah.
And they're playing pretty good. They're making some decent plays on the first shift. They're keeping possession. And then it's JT Miller back at his own blue line. You see Timo Meier skate to the bench, frustrated, not even looking. A bad time for a change, I guess, at the end of a shift. And
Yeah.
Miller just snaps it ahead to Kuzmenko. He's on a breakaway. And it's the perfect shot. On a breakaway, if you're going to shoot, you have 3 targets, really. You're either trying to take a quick shot 5-hole off of a stick handle before the goalie can react, or you are trying to go above the pad on either side, right?
Yes.
You're not really trying to go top corner unless maybe you're coming in off of a wing and trying to get the goalie to move and go the opposite corner, but you're trying to just make it as hard to save as possible. That's the hardest place for a goalie. If you can go off the post, this high off the ice, a pad and a little bit off the ice, it's a hard shot to save. It's perfectly placed from Kuzmenko. Excellent Selly. And the Canucks are 1 game back of 500.
And so Parker, I watched this overtime a few times because then my son Sean came home. He was out. We watched it again because I wanted to see why Timo Meier was so mad. Because not only did he inexplicably not try and stop JT Miller from going up the middle, but he was too busy slamming his stick on the ice. So I did watch
JT Miller.
Maybe that's why Miller pointed it out. No. So I was watching it. So there's one part there's 2 things that happened in the overtime. One of them is he had a 2-on-1 where it was Meier actually on the left, and he pulled up and he didn't shoot. That was no big deal. But then on that same sequence, I think he expected his other winger. So the puck came out of the blue line. I think he expected the other winger to kind of streak in down the right side, and then Meier. It looked like because the winger didn't streak in, it looked like Meier just dumped it in front of the bench. But I think he was trying to lead him with a pass, but the guy didn't come in. And then that's when Hughes picks it up, gives it to, and then Meier a few seconds later is going to the bench. It was just weird.
Yeah. But hey, Canucks get the win. They are 9, 10, and 3. Now, do you want to hear the analytics where they're at?
Give it to me, brother. Give it to me.
So I think coming into the week, the Canucks were at about like 27% to make the playoffs.
Okay.
And that felt generous, to be honest. After last night's game, so this isn't updated, but I think the Oilers won.
They won in overtime.
Vegas won, but Vegas is so far ahead.
Yeah.
The Blues lost, which would help if we're shooting wildcard spot. And the Oilers won. So all in all, probably a slight negative on the night. But coming into today, the Canucks were at 40%.
Really?
So remember, they started the year at 49. They are now at 40. And it really comes down to, any other year, 9, 10, and 3, you're looking at a team that is, a few points outside, and we're past American Thanksgiving, and you're really behind the 8 ball here. But I mean, you look at the teams here, right? Like Vegas is running away with it. Seattle is playing really well, right? They've got 29 points in 21 games, and they're probably, they've got a nice little barrier there. But you look at the playoff spots, and you're looking at Minnesota, or you're looking at the 2 wildcard spots, let's say, and you have Edmonton with 24 points in 22 games. So 3 points ahead of the Canucks with the same amount of games played. And you're looking at Minnesota with 22 points in 21 games. So 1 point more, 1 less game played. So with 60 games to go, lots of time to make that up, to the point where it's basically even. Canucks need to win 1 more game than Minnesota here on the way out. The problem is they're also competing with Calgary for this playoff spot and St. Louis, both of which are at 500, and I guess Nashville as well, who's also at 500. So there's a bunch of teams sort of pushing for these spots. Other teams will probably fall. You'll see one team fall, whether it's LA or Seattle. But yeah, they're in an okay spot right now, but they need to keep winning. And it's a good time to keep winning because their next 7 games, if I'm not mistaken, are teams that are below the playoff bar right now.
Wow. So Washington, Florida, Arizona, those 3.
Yep.
Montreal.
Because Washington is 6th in the Metro. Yep. Florida is 5th in the Atlantic. Arizona is Arizona.
Montreal
Montreal is 6th in the Atlantic.
San Jose's
Then
below
they go
us.
San Jose,
Yeah.
Minnesota, who's on the bubble. They're
Yeah.
technically, I guess they're technically in the playoffs right now because St. Louis lost.
Right.
But coming into tonight, they were not.
Yeah.
And then the Flames, who are fifth in the Pacific.
Right. Wow. Wow. And I
So a
also know,
chance to
so
make up
not,
some ground.
yes, exactly. And not only are we playing against not world beaters, but I believe, Parker, 9 of our next 14 are at home, which is massive because we've only played 8 home games. We kind of suck at home. We played 14 road games, so 8 plus 14, 22. That makes sense. So yeah, 9 of their next 14, so 9 and 5 are at home. So another reason why we should. Yeah. So man, the House of Positivity. That those are 2 really good points then that we
Yeah.
bring up. Yeah.
Yeah, they have 7 games that none of them they are the huge underdogs, right? And you add in the fact they're at home, right? Washington, the Canucks are probably favored, I would imagine, because they're at home.
Yeah.
And they probably have the teams about equal. Same with Florida, same with Arizona, same with Montreal. The Sharks, I imagine the Canucks are road favorites in that one too. Minnesota, they're at home, they're probably the favorites. And then I'm sure that Calgary game, they're underdogs there. So yeah, looking at just the rest of December, basically, there's the Canucks could win a couple more games than they lose here, right? Especially if you're looking at the next 7. If the Canucks can win 5 of these next 7, get above 500, they'll be in a pretty good spot. And it all, but you can't falter, right? You got to go and you got to beat Washington tomorrow. And beat Florida on Thursday and get that momentum rolling. Don't lose the momentum here. And then, because if you lose 2 games in a row, suddenly we're back where we started, right? You're back 3 games below 500. And, we're not happy.
No, for sure. And yeah, it's kind of maddening, but it's a good thing. Imagine if we hung on to beat Vegas that Monday night, a week ago today, Parker. We'd be obviously 10, 9, and 3. We'd be 23 points, and yeah, we're right in the wild card race. And I said this to you last week because it's so crazy. Imagine if we didn't give up 7 multi-goal leads, and even if we got points in 4 of them, there's another 7 or 8 points. It's so I really think, and I know we talked about this last week. Are we the team that started 0 and 5 and 2, or are we the team that won 2 out of 3? When we talked last week. And I maybe we're closer to the latter. Maybe Bruce Boudreau wasn't worried about his job or knows he's coaching for it, but he just said, "Look, let's learn how to play a bit of defense and not give up 45 cross-ice passes a game."
Right. Now, analytically, they're still not great. Right. Like expected goals wise, they're still not great, and they're kind of similar to their record, but just look, we can throw that out the window and we can look at this team is scoring a lot of goals and they're not getting a lot of goaltending. The problem is it is likely that their goaltending will improve. It is also likely that their goal scoring will go down.
Yes.
So it's, we'll just hope that one takes longer than the other and they can build up a bit of a lead in the standings, but they need to get it moving.
So Parker, you're the math guy. This is going to sound like a very sarcastic question, but it's a very genuine question. Can we take Minnesota's points percentage of 524, okay, as the second wildcard team? If we extrapolate that to 164 total points, 82 games, that's only 86 points. Now, is that not possible because they're going to play more teams against the East? Like, I don't know the best way to look at that, but right now, what I'm saying is the 8th playoff team has extrapolated points of 86.
Right. Yeah, that's not going to last.
Okay, that's what I thought.
The thing is, everyone's sort of on the same foot right now, and it's still sort of a race to the same spot. Maybe it does end up a little bit lower. The problem is
not that low.
Lots of these teams are just losing to Eastern Conference teams, right?
Right.
And that's just sort of a fluke, or the Eastern Conference is just better. Maybe the playoff bar does end up being 92 points in the West, right? But it's not going to be 86. If it was 86, the Canucks would have a real good shot. But yeah, it'll probably be somewhere maybe 90 to 95,
right?
Which I think historically, like 93, 94 is pretty typical. So even if it's 92, the Canucks have a ways to go.
Okay, so great point. So let's say, for instance, they need to get to 42 I'll do easy math. 42 and 30 is 72 and 10. Yeah, 42, 30, and 10 makes 82. 42, 30, and 10 makes 94 points, right?
Yeah.
40. Yes. So they're 9, 10, and 3. So do you think 42, 30?
They have to win 33 out of the last 60 games.
Yeah, can they go 33, 20, and 7? Can they do that?
Sure.
Yeah.
They could. Yeah, I mean, they've only won 9 out of 22 so far. But again, they've had a lot of weird things happen along the way, right? All these multi-goal leads getting blown, bad goaltending. Those turn around, and suddenly maybe this team is better than what we've seen. But it's hard to tell until we see.
Okay. So overall, look, we are 6 points better than we were when we last met six nights ago. What's your prediction? So yes, we'll set up the week now. We have 4. Oh yeah, that's right, because the Montreal one.
Yeah. So we got Capitals tomorrow,
Yep.
7:00.
Neither of us going.
Neither of us going.
Yeah.
Canucks Panthers Thursday, Hall of Fame game.
Both of us going.
Both of us going. 7 p.m.
Yeah.
Big one. Got to win that one. Well, with Luongo in the building, we claim it's the winner gets to keep Luongo. He'll wear their hat.
Yes.
Saturday, December 3rd, Coyotes.
You're going because you are doing.
Be doing the Botchford Project that day / night all day.
Yep. Nice.
And then Monday, December 5th, 7:30 p.m. Are you going to that game?
I'm actually not.
Are you doing game over that night?
I'm not actually.
Are you contractually obligated to not stream at the same time as a game over?
No, I'm actually not.
Okay, well maybe we'll see you Monday.
Yes, we should aim for that, like a 10:15 start on Monday.
Yeah, that would be a decent idea.
That's funny. As you say that, I'm going to look at my schedule right now. So keep going. So what do you think is going to happen? That was really funny, man. What do you think? There's an inside look of how Parker and I schedule things. We basically just ask each other questions till one of us breaks, basically.
Yeah, it's like 20 questions, but for times. So tomorrow, 7 p.m. Capitals. I cannot look when you're winning, when you're hot. It's usually pretty easy. It's easy to keep winning. Who do you think gets to start tomorrow?
Demko. I think so. Just as they went Martin back to back. Well, not back to back. You know what I mean. 2 games in a row. I think you go Demko because to me it doesn't matter who starts the Thursday night against Florida. There's no sentimental connection.
Kinda is, though.
Why? How?
Not to them, but like I don't know. I feel like you'd have your starting goalie in on the Hall of Fame night.
Okay. So I'll give you that, but let's say Boudreaux doesn't care about that, and let's just say, right. I would, because if you go back to Martin after Demko played really well, I just think that what are you saying to Demko? Maybe you don't care, but that's 3 out of the last 4. We're going Martin. I go Demko. I go Demko tomorrow night.
Well, but are you going to go Martin Thursday then?
Yep.
Okay. Well, then why which order does it matter then? Why go Demko Martin instead of Demko Martin Demko?
Because good question. I think you shouldn't be afraid to go Demko back to back because you just did it for Martin. Yeah.
Right. I think I'm just sort of the mindset that like if I'm running the show, I am going to Demko Martin saying right now,
yep,
we're just splitting games between you guys until one of you falls apart. Right. You're just going to get good rest. You're each sort of playing at an equal level. Yeah. So we're just going to rotate back and forth. Now that back-to-back, bit of an exception. It's a back-to-back, right? So each of you are going to play one. Their back-to-back nights doesn't really matter. And we're going to split the next 2 games, Capitals and then Panthers, unless one of you gets a shutout against Washington. I don't know. I don't really care who starts tomorrow.
Yeah, me neither.
I'm just sort of playing devil's advocate, but
no, it's totally cool.
I think I could see them going to Martin tomorrow.
So okay, so 2 different things then. What would you do, but what do you think they're going to do? Or maybe they're the same thing.
I think I want to reward Martin for almost getting a shutout on Saturday.
Yeah.
And again, not like Demko was bad yesterday. He let him, he got 2 fluky ones and then one that he got beat after the Canucks were hemmed in for a minute and a half, 2 minutes. Right. So that game, those 3 goals weren't on him at all. So I think you could play either and have a decent argument. I don't think you're going to make either of them mad.
Right.
So yeah, I don't care.
I don't care either. But my gut feeling is gonna be
All right.
Demko.
I think the Canucks win tomorrow though, because they're on a win streak. It's easier to keep winning.
Yeah.
So I'll say they win tomorrow. I will say they beat Florida. I don't want them to lose in Arizona when I'm there. Okay, they lose to Florida. They beat Arizona and they beat Montreal. They go 3-1 until our next show.
I'm gonna go 3-1 as well, but my order is different. I'm gonna say they lose to Montreal. I don't want them to.
That would be my pick if they were going to lose one. That's the one I'd want them to lose.
Right.
But Montreal I think is not great. Although I just said, I don't know.
Whatever. As long as they 3-1 as well. 3-1 as well.
Jazzcran's going 4-0. Love it.
And he was the one who he called 3-0 last week, so he was right.
Well, broken clock. If you keep saying they're going to win every game, eventually they'll go on a win streak. All right.
That is true with my score prediction. I've been 22 times I've said the Canucks are going to win 4-2 and they haven't yet. 22 times.
I think 3-2 is the most common score. You should pick that one.
But
although the Canucks do score a lot. 4-3.
Yeah, 4-3 has been very common, but no, 4-2's always been my go-to, and and I don't change my prediction until they actually hit it. So we could go all 82. No, it won't be all 82 games. Yeah,
the Canucks have been in 5 4-3 games this year.
I know.
If you picked 8-5, you'd have more luck. So they're both going 4-0. No, 3-1.
3-1.
3-1.
Love
all right. Peter's going 0-4 for the reverse psychology.
Sure, Peter. Whatever it takes.
Let's do
whatever
risky.
it takes.
All right. That takes us to about 23 minutes left. Where do you want to go next?
I want to talk about the news from today, and I want to get your reaction to, and the chat's reaction to Vasily Podkolzin and Jack Rathbone, both being, they never say the words demoted or sent down. They say assigned to the Abbotsford Canucks. What you need to know in the chat, you guys, this is a no risk, no brainer move because you don't have to worry about losing either of those guys to waivers because of their contract situation, and they're not getting any playing time here. Rathbone hasn't played since 3 weeks ago. He's only played 6 games. He's the one I think you got to get playing for sure. But Podkolzin too, if you're worried about Pearson and Studnicka coming back. So to me, it's not even a salary thing because they have room. It's totally about playing time and roster numbers.
Yeah, there's like you said, it's kind of a no-brainer. And I was sort of pushing this the last 2 weeks about Rathbone, right?
Yes, you were.
Because Rathbone is the 8th D in this depth chart. He's behind Stillman. He's behind Burrows. He should not be behind Stillman, but he is. So if he's going to sit in the press box every night and your AHL team plays, 60 kilometers east of you, and they play tomorrow night, as far as I remember, why wouldn't you want Jack Rathbone playing 20 minutes a night in the AHL? He was very successful there last year. Build up some confidence. Just, he's the 8th D man. Get him playing games. Get him developing. It doesn't matter if a guy like, Riley Stillman sitting in the press box because he has a lower upside than a Jack Rathbone. And then for Podkolzin, again, are they going to take Sheldon Dries out of the lineup to put Podkolzin back in, or Curtis Lazar out of the lineup to put Podkolzin in? Yeah. No. If Tanner Pearson is back and someone's got to come to the lineup, that pushes him further down. Jack Studnicka as well. They just traded for this guy, and he's looked okay in his playing time. So you now have Vasily Podkolzin being your 15th forward, and that doesn't make any sense to keep him sitting in the press box every night. So why wouldn't you get them down there? Podkolzin can play 19 minutes a night in the AHL, score a bunch of goals, hopefully get that confidence back, develop his pro game, because he hasn't been very effective this year.
Yes. And I don't worry about Podkolzin's attitude or even he's only in year 2. He's not even in his 3rd year. Because remember, him and Hoglander were drafted the same year, but Hoglander started a year earlier. So, Hoglander's in his final year of his 3-year ELC. Podkolzin's only in year number 2. So we have him for another year at 925. That's good. We have Jack Rathbone for another year at 860 or whatever he makes. That's good. So, get both of them playing. Get both of them playing.
For sure. That is, they sitting in the press box, taking practices doesn't help at all.
Yeah.
NHL practices might be better than AHL practices, but AHL games are better than eating popcorn upstairs.
Hey, do you think, Parker, let's try and we're always objective and humble. Do you think we're too high on Rathbone together?
I think he's just exciting. Like his play
Yeah.
style, his offensive, he's such a good skater that I don't think so, because the things that we've liked about Rathbone continue to be his best assets. The
Right.
problem is it's more on the mental side. It's more on being in the right place, being the stronger player.
Hmm.
Um, he's got the edge work, he's got the skating, he can make the pass, but it's in his own zone that he's struggling, and
Yeah.
that's something that you develop by playing against pro hockey players, learning. It's a much different game than playing at Harvard, right, in
Hmm.
college. So especially as a defenseman compared to a
Yeah.
forward, right? Forward, your job's kind of the same: go score goals. Defenseman, now you have to stop people who are 6 times better than you're used to at scoring. So
Yeah.
it's a tough transition.
I so badly want him to do well. I really do. And it's almost like when I'm watching him live, Parker, I'm almost willing him to play better, because I've seen him make a lot of, and he's only 23 years old, but I've seen him make a lot of bad passes, bad decisions. But yeah, it could be confidence, playing time, all those things. So he'll get back. It might not be the end, depending on health, I guess, of our blue liner. I'm not sure if he'll get back and how quickly he'll get back to the main club. Whereas I think Podkolzin, I think we'll see him certainly by the end of the season. I just don't know when.
Yeah, there's going to be injuries. There's going to be a stretch of a couple losses where they're going to want to change something up, and Podkolzin's a
Yeah.
guy you can slot in, especially if he's doing really well
Yeah.
in Abbotsford. I have a fun little stat that got tweeted out today
All right, I'm ready.
by Mike Kelly. There are 49 lines with at least 100 minutes of 5-on-5 play together. So units of 3 forwards that have played together for more than 100 minutes of 5-on-5. None have scored at a higher rate than the Mikheyev, Pettersson, Kuzmenko line. So in every 20 minutes at 5-on-5 that Mikheyev, Pettersson, and Kuzmenko play together, they score 2.13 goals, which basically
Wow.
means if you could have all three of them playing the entire game, the Canucks would be scoring 6 goals a night.
They might be a little tired, but they'll score.
Right. But I mean, you got to think about it. They probably are playing like 15 minutes a night at 5-on-5 together, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's 1.5 goals a game coming from this line, which is huge and probably not sustainable. They'd be the best even strength line in hockey. But the three of them are working really well together. At least Pettersson has been on just such a different level.
Yeah.
And Kuzmenko's obviously been fantastic as well.
Yeah, that's a real cool stat. The fact that we're talking about better than anything that Colorado or Vegas or Boston or Carolina can throw out there. That's very impressive.
And the people behind them, I think Boston might not qualify because Marchand hasn't played a lot.
Right.
But you look at number 2 at 1.95 goals per 20 minutes is Verhaeghe, Barkov, and Kachuk.
Oh, really?
And then the third one, which isn't that surprising, is Rupi Hintz, Joe Pavelski, and Jason Robertson, who is tied, I think, in the Art Ross race with Connor McDavid right now. I think at like 36 points already.
Yeah, actually, it's funny you mentioned, I guess, a Florida combo and a Dallas combo, and I didn't even mention those two teams. But yeah, Dallas is playing very well, obviously. Wow. Well, that's pretty good, and it speaks to that. And maybe we don't have to get into it too much. We can save this, but when it comes to Kuzmenko's new contract, does Dan Milstein and his camp prop up Kuzmenko's numbers point a game, or do the Canucks say, yeah, put him on with someone else, not name Elias Pettersson, and see how well they're obviously not going to say it like that snarkily,
Right.
but you know what I'm getting at.
They just say, look how Anson Carter worked out with the Canadiens, right? No, I think Milstein literally tweeted out after
Money
Kuzmenko
bags.
scored in overtime. He tweeted a bunch of money bags, which is hilarious. I hate it, but it's hilarious.
Yeah.
He's gonna get paid, and the Canucks are gonna have to make some moves to let that happen, right? And I'm sure we might get some questions about that here when we go to the people, if you are ready, unless you have any other topics.
No, we can do it. We're both in a good mood. We're both going to games this week. Yeah, let's go to the people.
All right, folks, time to get your questions in. I have not been checking all that much, but let's see. I'll see if I can scroll up.
115 people in here, Parker. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, thank you all for joining tonight. Make sure you
Yes.
subscribe, make sure you hit like, and if you missed any part of the show, you can rewind back to the beginning. You can find it on your favorite podcast platform about 10-15 minutes after the show as well. So subscribe in all those places. We do really appreciate it.
You ready?
All right. Yeah, I'm ready if you got one.
Let's start with these two. Will Erik Karlsson keep up this pace? No.
No. Next.
Next. Good player, but no.
Yeah.
Taylor. Actually, no, let's go, Peter. What do you do with Garland? He's been absolutely invisible.
Yeah, he hasn't been great. Again, you look at points wise, he's on pace for like 40 points, which would be a regression from last year. But we're talking about a guy, he's got 3 goals in 21 games. It's just not good enough, right? He's on like a 12 goal pace this year, 11 goal pace. That's not good enough for what they expected to get. Problem is, are you selling low on a guy like Connor McDavid? Although, were you going to get much for him anyways, even if he'd been put up 50 points based on the winger market right now? It's Cap's going to go up only $1 million next year. It's tough to sell a $5 million winger that's only going to have 30 points by the time the trade deadline rolls around.
Chris brings up a really good point. Something I want to bring up about Garland. We've talked about it before. He says Garland has been noticeable, just not putting up the points. Garland, he plays with this frenetic energy where he looks like he's doing something all the time.
Yeah.
But he's not effectively doing much all the time. Is that fair to say?
I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah.
He has a style where he plays a very energetic, sort of flashy game where he'll make those spin moves, make a bunch of space. And part of that is, he does make a lot of space. And part of it is, the puck's not going in the net for him. Yeah. And, he's not getting that power play one time to prop those numbers up a little bit more. And yeah, it's hard to say how much of it is just visual, he's spinning around, he's got the puck, he's skating in, but then nothing comes of it. And we're in a results-based business, right? The GMs they're not all smart enough to look at the analytics and be like, oh, well, actually, he's got a 51% expected goals when he's on the ice. And they'll look at like, well, he's not converting, he's not producing. That makes it tough to sell a player like that in a terrible winger market. I mean, we're talking about probably a pretty weak return unless you're, doing the mental gymnastics of saying, well, you're sort of trading him for Kuzmenko and on his new contract or whatever you're trying to pull there.
Yeah, I want him to do well. Peter says the fan base seems to be divided. One side wants a rebuild. The other side feels like the team is ready for a playoff push. Well, the Canucks have basically, they've done kind of what your question is saying, Peter. They've been 2 different teams this season. I don't know.
And last season, right? So last season they start out being 8-15-2 and look like they're, a lottery team, and then they go out and they win a bunch of games the latter half of the season. We look at this season, they start out, 0-5-2 this year. They improve all the way to 6-10-3, right? They're basically just hovering 4 or 5 games below 500. And now they've won 3 games, right, against some really good teams, and they're right back in the mix. So it's because they're a middle of the road team that's very streaky, right? They look absolutely abysmal for a few weeks, and they look fantastic and unbeatable for a few weeks. So it's hard to say. Problem is, you look at it in the long run, this isn't a Stanley Cup winning team, right? It's a team that might pull out a playoff berth. But they also have no prospects coming up, and this is sort of the best that they're going to be, seemingly.
Well said. Yashu says, would you package Höglander to dump OEL's salary, and only if OEL had a no movement clause?
If that's all it took, yes,
I do that too.
I don't think that is all it'll take, though. Because again, wingers don't have much value, right? Even a guy like Höglander, who's, more cost controlled, right? He'll get a raise, but he's not going to be worth a ton, right? He'll probably get a bridge deal, maybe like 2 or 3 years at $1 million or $1.5 million, $2 million a year. But yeah, I mean, we're talking about a guy who in his first year put up 27 points and has since just regressed, right? Yeah. 18 points in 60 last year. He only has 4 points in 17 games this year. And he's already a -4. Like, he's not producing. So no team is going to take on that OEL contract for the opportunity to have Niels Höglander on their team unless they hire Jim Benning as their GM.
We can always hope. Jasper brings up a good point, more of a second point. So is Besser bound to get dealt? We can talk about that. Him, Garland, or Myers would need to be traded in order to re-sign Horvat. Jaskrin, I want to point out, and not just, I'm glad you brought it up, because there's a common misperception out there that the Canucks have no room to sign. They actually do. They can sign Horvat. They can sign Kuzmenko. It leaves them very, very thin around the margins, but there is a world where you can sign those two guys. But of course, you're hurting your competitive.
You're not getting any better.
Exactly. That's what I was trying to say. So there is room, but and you can do it without trading a bunch of guys. But you're obviously, as Parker said, you're not going to improve.
Right. And what do we think Bo's getting? What's your number?
Oh well, if I'm him, I'm wanting very close to what Miller got.
Yeah, you're probably wanting what Miller got, right?
Yeah.
You're saying, well, he put up 99 points. You gave him a bunch of money. I'm putting up 60 goals. I want a bunch of money.
And I'm 2 years younger than him. Yeah.
So let's say he's getting 8. Technically, that's $2.5 million more than he's getting right now, right? So it's only an extra $2.5 million. But again, you look at Besser, right?
Yeah.
He might have some value, right? He still does have a bit of that pedigree. He is putting up almost a point per game, right? 14 points in 16 games, a lot of which are assists. He's a -12, which GMs don't like to see. But yeah, again, like, does he have much value? I'm sure you would be able to trade him and not have to add to lose the contract. But yeah, I mean, I don't see it where, you're not getting much. You're not going to get much in return.
Yeah. I agree. Same with basically the same reasons we talked about Connor Garland. Kodiak, great question, but Parker and I actually did address this. I was more adamant that I would go Demko Martin in that order, and Parker could go either way, but he'd be fine if Martin started tomorrow. Is that fair to say?
Yep.
Good. What else? Yeah. Irvin says, given Rutherford's advanced age, are we foolish to think he'd consider a rebuild?
I don't know. Because it's tough, right? Because I think if I'm in that boat, right, where I'm, near 80 and running a hockey team and thinking, okay, well, how long do I want to be doing this when the team is this bad, right? I'm probably, maybe he wants to work for another 3 years, let's say. Well, yeah, you probably want to try to win a cup in those 3 years, right? You have put that, you have a hard stop. It's going to be tough to commit, trade a bunch of assets and say, all right, we're going to be competitive in 5 years and I'm not going to be here. It would be very heroic. But I don't see that. Right.
Yeah. I think, and he's being adverse to using the word rebuild, right? He keeps talking about build, not rebuild. He said that on multiple occasions. Parker, I will not get offended if your answer is no, but Jasper's asked it 3 times. Did you happen to see this? It was a disaster.
I scrolled past it on Twitter and I did keep scrolling.
That's totally fair. You wouldn't be the only one.
I wanted my opinion of you to remain high.
well, I'll take that. That's the nicest thing you've ever said about me. I'm going to take it. Let's just say I have no shame, obviously. What else do we got? Oh, here's a good question. Kuzmenko versus Besser on PP1. What do you like?
Did you click? Oh, there it is. Okay.
Yeah,
thoughts on Bruce rotating Kuzmenko and Besser. Who do you guys think fits better on power play 1? Brock Besser has been a tip machine, which is nice. I mean, I say machine. He has 3 goals in 16 games, but they all came in the last few games, which is good. I mean, Kuzmenko's producing regardless. I don't think it matters. This power play is doing so well. I don't want to mess with it too much when they're clicking at like 30-something% over the last few games. So I don't think it matters all that much.
If I had to compare those two players, Parker, I'd say Kuzmenko is the more dynamic player right now, because Besser, you're right, his 3 goals have been from the exact same spot, right in front of the goalie on the left. All 3 goals. Whereas at least Kuzmenko goes side to side, tries to find, give angles. I don't know. I go Kuzmenko over Besser.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah. What else we got in here?
Would you put Pearson into the lineup if he's healthy? If yes, who do you take out?
He Doesn't he lead the team in or he led the team in 7 or 8 minor penalties when he was
Yeah.
when he
Well,
got
I think
hurt?
Myers is ahead of him now.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's been a minor penalty machine this year. Um,
The only
do
person
you
I'd
put
bring him
him
in for
in?
is Garland. Is because I don't put him on the fourth line because I don't think he's a good fourth line player, and I don't want to break up Amon Joshua and Lazar. But if Dries, Besser, Garland, they've been okay. They haven't been great. In fact, Dry scores. He doesn't need those two guys. um,
Yeah.
I would bring him in for Garland, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, let's think here, right? So you're not splitting up Pedersen, Kuzmenko, Mikheyev.
Yeah,
I don't think you're splitting up Horvat and Miller, and they've been
unless you
playing well
bring him in for
together.
Hoglander.
Right. So, and Horvat and Pearson have historically been a thing.
Yeah,
So I could see that. Would
yeah,
I do that? I don't know. I Again, Hoglander's not really producing, right? He's got 4 points, but they've looked good together. Three of
yes.
them, Miller, Horvat, and Hoglander. If Pearson becomes healthy
Mm-hmm.
right after a loss, then they will put him in.
Yeah.
But if the Canucks have won, let's say 4 in a row,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they're changing the lineup.
I agree with you, Parker, but I could also, I was actually visioning this while I was listening to your answer. I can see Bruce Boudreau behind the microphone saying, yeah, when Tanner Pearson's healthy, you don't keep him out of the lineup. I can actually
Right.
picture him saying something like that.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Again, you're gonna break something up though, right? And
Yeah.
I don't, you're not putting him down the middle, and you're not subbing out Sheldon Dries because you're not putting Miller in the middle ever again. So yeah, your options are, and you probably don't want to chop up that fourth line. I don't think you want to. Yeah, you don't want to put Pearson with Joshua and Oman. I don't think.
Mm-hmm.
Lazar brings some energy there, and Pearson's not really an energy guy. So yeah, you're looking at Garland or Hoglander,
Yep.
and if I like looking at this, I'm like, yeah, it's going to be Hoglander that comes out.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't hate if Garland came out.
Yeah, that's fair. I thought Jeffrey and I were friends, but he said you could put Clay in that spot and he'd pick up goals too. Well, I'm taking that as a compliment, Jeffrey. Although Jeffrey does make a good point later. He says, I can absolutely see Bruce doing that, putting Pearson straight in, and Hoglander going straight to the press box. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's tough, but it's just kind of the way it works until another person gets hurt, right? It's
Mhm.
just the way it goes, and that's sort of Hoglander needs to be better if he wants to stay in.
Yeah. Bruce says sit Pearson and maybe he may request a trade. But you got to think of the big picture. That's not Pearson is a very well respected veteran around the league, and you might think it might be good for our team in the short term, but that's not going to go well for free agents, guys that talk around the league saying what's Vancouver like. So I hear where you're going with this, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, at that point you could just trade him now,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, that's true.
So, but again, I think they want the depth, right? They don't want to lose somebody. And you're thinking, well, yeah, let's just take Hoglander out, keep Pearson around till the trade deadline, and see if we're able to push for a playoff spot, and then we'll keep him around.
Sure.
Edmund asks, when do you think Riley Stillman draws in next?
I don't know if he gets in if Dermott's Dermott's still in a non-contact jersey, so really he's only one injury away from getting in now.
Yeah. Do you think he gets in if they say lose the next game? Do you think he gets in against Florida?
Man, to me, Parker, that's so short-sighted.
Yeah.
But it depends. It's such an easy answer for me to say. Well, it depends. But truly, if he's -3 and he gives the puck away twice in front of us, yeah, then maybe you look at making a change. But I just see, there's one cool play I saw last night, Parker, where you play defense, right?
Yep.
Okay, so I don't know if you ever do this. He was actually battling on the boards, and he got stripped of the puck, but he kind of swung his stick backwards low just to try and, even though he wasn't even looking, just to try and disrupt.
Right.
And I don't see a lot of defensemen do that, but I thought it was a really, really smart. I don't remember what happened, but I thought it was a really smart play.
Yeah. I'm just
Practicing.
looking at this and I'm thinking like I would say, yeah, I don't think Stillman should play another game this year unless
Yep.
injuries dictate. But the problem is they keep playing him, right? So I don't know. I think he probably does draw in the next 4 games, let's say, but I
Yeah.
don't think he should.
Yep, I think that's fair.
And I will be mad when it happens.
And I think what's interesting, It all depends on when Travis Dermott comes back. Because in a 23-man roster, you have your 18 skaters, your 2 goalies, and then 3 healthy scratches, either 2 forwards, 1 D, or 2 D, 1 forward. The Canucks have gone with 2 D, 1 forward, obviously, because they had 8 defensemen on the roster. But by sending Rathbone down today, imagine if Dermott's not ready and then one of Pearson or Studnicka come back, then now you're actually, it's reversed now. Now you have two forwards and 1 D as your healthy scratch. So what I'm saying is there's a chance that if Dermott doesn't come back, he's not ready, the Canucks only have 1 extra D. And if, God forbid, something happens or Burrows doesn't play well, then Stillman's your next man up.
Yeah.
If Dermott's not ready. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
All right. Well, it is 11 o'clock, folks. So thank you very much for joining. If you enjoyed the show, like I said, leave a like, hit subscribe, do all that good stuff. Miss any part, you can rewind back to the beginning. You can find out your favorite podcast platform in a matter of about 10, 15 minutes. Clay, any parting words for
I'm going to give you some love from Rod. Parker should play before Stillman.
I will accept if they pay me an entry-level contract, please. I'll take $1 million a year.
Well, last words. Well, totally, Parker. I can tell we're both in a good mood. The people are watching the show. Thank you. 130 of you. They're in a good mood. Maybe it's because the team is playing well. Maybe because we're back to our regular home on Monday nights. But tonight was a great show. And yeah, 4 games between now and next Monday night, which we'll do. And I'm really excited. I'm really excited about the Canucks making some hay, especially at home now. And you can feel the energy of the fans just kind of slowly coming back. Not so much apathy, and if they can build on it, we could be talking about a team that's 1-2 games over 500 at this time next week.
For sure. All right, folks, we're going to wrap up there. If you want more Canucks talk, you can go over to Canuck Clay's channel. He'll be doing a 30-minute stream or so in a matter of about 10 minutes, so you can hang out there. Otherwise, have a lovely night, and we will see you next week.